Okay. Oh. All right. Well, I thank everyone for joining us today. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Liz Bander. She is our, our speaker for our noon meeting. Liz is a senior program manager at Microsoft, a member of the League of Women Voters of Washington Board, a past board member of the League of Women Voters of United States, and the League of Women Voters of Seattle King County. She also volunteers with nonprofits that make STEM more diverse, equitable, and inclusive, including chairing AnitaB.org's Mid-Career Women Committee and serving on the advisory boards for Ignite Worldwide and Franklin Pierce Public Schools CTE program. In her free time, she is an avid equestrian and occasional pole dancer. I do like it when Liz shares her photos of her horse on social media. It's a lot of fun. She lives in the woods north of Marysville with her partner, Dude, her kind of kid, 2 dogs and 2 cats, and her horse lives in Redmond. I've had the wonderful opportunity to get to know Liz over the past couple of years much better. And I'm really excited that she has the opportunity to join us today to talk more about the state of our League of Women Voters of Washington and the League of Women Voters of US. So welcome, Liz.
Thank you. Thanks, Shelley. Yeah, I have a lot of fun with my bios. It's all true. I'm just going to write in the most entertaining way for me. I am going to share my screen and okay, so hopefully that goes okay. Awesome. Okay, so, and I'm technically on vacation today. I took an extra day off before I head out of town tomorrow. So, but I want to talk a little bit about where we are at 103 years old. And my helpful assistant, Amos, might be joining me or not. The poodles invade my space, as do the cats. So, Shelley had given me some things that, we might want to talk about and think about today. And one of the things I really wanted to talk about was our priorities. And that's where I'm going to start. If I can find my PowerPoint. There it is. Okay. So I split this into internal and external priorities because we really need to focus on what we're going to do inside the league and what we're doing outside the league to communicate what we're doing inside the league. Internally, this is Amos. He is named after Amos from The Expanse, who is a great example of healthy masculinity. And he's also my assistant, apparently. So internal priorities, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I've really highlighted the inclusion because we cannot achieve diversity until we are equitable and inclusive. And that's where I really focus on our internal work that we're doing both at LWVUS and at LWV Washington, of really trying to focus on how do we do better at including people. People look at me and say, oh, you're young. Well, I'm 40. I'm not that young. But when it comes to things that we're hearing inside of the league of how are we treating our younger members, how are we engaging with them, how are we bringing them into the league fold. I will tell you that for my league story, I am here in effect because of Elliot, whose last name I spaced on, and Kathy Sakahara and Nancy Etram, particularly from the Seattle King County League, whom I met at a action workshop and who were immediately like, hey, this is a great spot for you. We'd love to have you participate. We'd love to have you get engaged with advocacy. There was no well, you have to wait or think about it, or it was just enthusiastic inclusion. And I think that's so important for how we bring people in, is making sure that we are including them in the things that they care about, not the things that we think they should be doing from the start. And I say that because I hear a lot of things of, oh, well, we brought our young people in and they're doing social media, and it's, but do they want to? And making sure that we are bringing people into the league and we are engaging them in ways that they want to be engaged in. Some people are always going to be the type who are happy to write a check once a year or renew their membership and do 1 or 2 things, and that's it. And that's okay. But making sure that we're bringing people in and that we're making space for them too. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the coming slides, but the making space is something we need to touch on too. This quote from Walter Katundu, it's from the Washington Post. It came out in June of 2020 after the Blackbird Watcher in New York the police were called on him. Walter Katundu is a MacArthur Grant recipient. He's brilliant, multidisciplinary artist and also an avid bird watcher who literally put up signs around his home that stated he was bird watching. And I keep using this quote from the interview with him because it is so important that we really think about not doing the outreach first, but doing the work inside first to make sure that we are ready for everyone who is going to walk through our doors. And that's something that's so important as we think about what we're doing and put it into our own priorities. The other part of this is strengthening our own network. And this, I'm really talking about our national network and our internal Washington network. We are made up of a number of different amazing leagues, and we are all doing some really fantastic work, often, which it should not be a surprise because a lot of national issues are felt very locally. And so one of the things that is a huge priority for national, a huge priority, across Washington with the MELD program, the Member Engagement and Leadership Development, is really about how do we connect with one another? I mentioned the folks in Seattle-King County, and Eliette actually was a member of Thurston County. She was not Seattle-King County. Shelley is in Pullman, and I get to talk to Shelley regularly. And I love being able to talk to people across the league. I am still in touch with my former board members, Jessica Roloff, who is a former LWVUS board member, my quasi co-parent, and also a good friend of mine, and I are in touch regularly just as friends. And this is so important. Robin Prudhomme Bauer, who was the former president in Arizona, former LWVUS board member, very active in the league. She is one of those people that I know is always a shoulder when I need it. And fostering those kinds of connections are so important. That's one of the things that's the goal in part of convention this year, of really strengthening our connection to one another, of LWVUS's convention, and even just of events like these, of making sure that we are connecting across the league as far as we can, and in our everyday work too, really to learn about how are other people doing this work. When it comes to studies, people would say, well, how do I do this study? Well, from LWVUS, we don't have rules. We have rules about how you bring the concurrence. But in terms of how states and local leagues do studies, I really encourage state and local leagues to be talking to other leagues to say, hey, are you doing any investigation or studies on this? Have you done any studies? The clearinghouse is a great start. It's not a comprehensive view. We don't have that right now. But to really help people just, again, learn and talk to one another and figure out, oh, okay, so you've already done this. Well, that means work that you don't have to do, which means that we can go do advocacy, we can go do voter education and voter engagement, and we don't have to do all the work ourselves. This last internal priority of supporting local leagues, this is, again, both at LWVUS and at LWV Washington. How do we make our local leagues more effective? I joined the league because I cared about democracy. I did not join the league to do social media posts. I did not join the league to run a website. I didn't join the league to, write a budget. A lot of those things come with being on the board. A lot of those things come with the fact that, nonprofit organizations are still businesses. They still have to run by business rules. We just don't have profits that we, need to give to shareholders. But it's so important as to how do we help local leagues do the work that they want to do the work that is fun. So that's been something that at national, as we have been figuring out how we're going to change and adapt and grow, by getting rid of the PMP, for example. How do we make fundraising less difficult? How do we make the PMP less burdensome to local leagues? Because again, everyone has been able to set their own fees. How do we help people? How do we help everyone get the money and resources that they need so that you don't have to worry, well, we don't have someone who can be a Facebook admin. What do we do now? For my part at the State of Washington board, I chair communications. And so one of the things that I'm really looking at, how do we do more of, is how do I give you content, communications content that you can go and run with. Same as like our communications toolkits that come from LWVUS. It will not be that fancy because there's one of me and one of Carolyn and one of Amy. And Carolyn and Amy are staff and they have other priorities too. But when it comes to things like elections, how do we help you get good content out there about why is our election process safe? Why is it effective? How is it audited and reviewed? So that with minimal changes, you can just go and reshare. You don't even have to change the content. You can just go and reshare too. But to make sure, again, that we're getting that message out there that you can then go leverage. Okay, so I'm going to talk about external priorities. This quote from Lunel was actually the quote that we wrote. All 50 state leagues submitted quotes in that were used in the press release, and that this was a part of our amicus brief filing in the Moore versus Harper case about the independent state legislature theory. And the part that I really want to highlight here is we do not need politicians to decide the outcome of elections at any stage of the process. And that is such a powerful message. That is one of those ways that we can connect with our constituents. And I say constituents because it is more than citizens, it is more than voters, it is everyone who is here in Washington. However they're here, they have a vested interest in democracy. Democracy is what keeps us functioning as a state, as a nation. It's one of those things that I don't necessarily trust government institutions. I'm Jewish, my partner is Native American, my kind of kid is from Honduras. We don't always have a high trust level of that. I trust democracy, and I trust that the people around me, my neighbors, are going to be here with me and for me, because I have to believe in that. So as a league, we really need to focus on connecting with our constituents, the people who maybe don't know who we are. We are well known in terms of the actual powers of the state. I don't know if folks saw, but the Attorney General, Bob Ferguson, his team cited our journalism study. We don't have a position yet, but they cited our journalism study in a bill that they proposed to the legislature earlier this year. Like, that's really cool. They know who we are and they think our work is fantastic. And that's really, really cool that, like, that is the power that we have. But connecting with people every single day is also important, because we need everyone to be invested in democracy for whatever their reasons are. This is something that crosses all sorts of party lines. It crosses all sorts of beliefs. Everyone that I know that I talk to, no matter where they fall on the political spectrum, cares very deeply about democracy. We may have different ways of getting to the end state that we all like, but they care very deeply about it. And we have to help bring that message to people to help them find what they care about, not telling them why they should care. And that goes to defending democracy. That is a core external priority. We're seeing a lot more of this at LWVUS. I hesitate to say that Washington is good. Washington has other issues. There is not the immediate active threat of widespread voter suppression that other states are dealing with. That said, we have work to do. When it comes to transparency, when it comes to redistricting, as this quote from Lunel says, we have a lot that needs to be done to ensure that our democracy in the state of Washington is strong. And so that's our external focus here, as well as an external focus for LWVUS, as they are doing a lot of work in the South, particularly in the Midwest, to ensure that democracy remains strong. And this last one is the bread and butter. This is why I think, like, half the people I know joined the league, is empowering voters with good information. I chaired the voter access committee at LWVUS, and I am proud to say that was our board committee and several off-board members, and Vote 411 was part of that. And so with that, we were able to have Vote 411 largely translated into Spanish. We have been able to focus on the redesign so that it is more accessible to people, especially on mobile phones, and that it's easier to use overall. And to build with Jeanette and with the staff at LWVUS sort of a roadmap that they can then go and run with. They may change priorities and things like that, but at least to have that there. Empowering voters is so important because, again, it's not about what we care about. For the most part, there's, leaving the advocacy work aside, empowering voters is helping people figure out what they care about and then figure out how to go do something about it. And this really comes into the everyday participation in democracy, and that, again, connecting with constituents. Whether it's a survey from WSDOT or from, the county on like, hey, when should we make, or do big changes to this road? That was an actual survey from WSDOT and I think Snohomish County about parts of Highway 2. And it was okay, well, here's the times that I'm working and commuting on this road and would be really inconvenient for me. That's participating in democracy. Emailing a representative and saying, hey, you know what, can you fix the potholes on my street? That would be really rad. That's participating in democracy. Voting is participating in democracy. Going to a city council meeting, participating in democracy. Empowering voters is so much more about than just getting stuff on, getting people to fill out the ballot. That matters. That's critical, especially this year when it is an off year cycle, because local races matter just so much in day-to-day quality of life. Maybe I'm thinking about the potholes on my own road, but really ensuring that people understand who it is that they're voting for, what they're voting for, and then again, how to follow up with the people who are elected and say, hey, you know what? I'd like to hold you to your campaign promises, or, hey, you're doing a really great job. Thanks. I appreciate it. Or, yeah, I'd like to see more of X and less of Y. Helping people understand that it is a year-round continuous process. So my last slide, getting and staying involved. These are like just 4 sort of top of mind, high level ways to get and stay involved across different levels of the league. The first is participate on committees. The league update comes out every other Thursday. I encourage you to sign up for it at LWV.org. It's from LWVUS. They always have different opportunities for you to participate and in various ways. So there was recently a call for participation on a bunch of different committees. They selected people from across the country and from across all levels of league, from all levels of engagement with the league to participate. This also goes for boards. Put your name in the ring. I think that's really important, is if you have bandwidth of any kind, try. And I say that, and I know I don't have a lot of bandwidth, and I know Shelly sees emails from me at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's because my schedule is weird and it works for me. But if you can find time, please participate, and please encourage other people to participate to the extent that they can. Like, don't burn yourself or anyone out. Volunteering somewhere new. Like, this is both a very literal of, if you've always done voter registration in a single place, go somewhere else. I keep saying we need to go to the weed store and do voter registration and voter engagement, get out the vote activities in front of the weed store. Why? Because weed crosses a lot of boundaries in terms of like who is using it, age range, demographics, race, income status. Like, you cross so many different boundaries there. It's also, if you've always done get out the vote and voter registration, try advocacy. Volunteer with the state league, volunteer with the national league, volunteer in a different league. Reach out to people that that are in league that are elsewhere and say, hey, is there anything that you need help with. Again, the boundaries that we draw are as artificial as our actual like state boundaries. Like there is no like, there's a sign between Washington and Idaho, but there's not like this hard line in the ground. There's no reason that you can't reach out to people that you know and say, hey, can I help with anything? What can we do to help you? Because, you know, we've got a bunch of stuff that we're doing. And again, Idaho's laws may be different on some things, but if you have great content, you can share that out with other people across the league. The top during the election season, our top get out the vote meme was, it literally said, it was from Zoolander and it said, voting is so hot right now. That is entirely universal. Like the message crosses the entire country of the United States. Anyone could have shared that, and to make sure that, again, we get that message out. The other part is letting people find their why. This is really that whole democracy means something different to everyone, and people care about it for their own reasons, and we can't impose our reasons on them. I have my own reasons, and even within my household, people have different reasons that they care about democracy and that they care about voting, and that's great. It's helping people remember that there's a reason why. And this also includes like civic education. This talks to kids too. Why do they care about democracy? Why does it matter? I was lucky. One of my mom's colleagues and friends was a Raleigh, North Carolina city councilor when I was a kid. And I was lucky enough that back in the days when climate change was environmentalism and it was all about recycling, that he came and talked to my second grade class about recycling and the city of Raleigh. And I don't remember what he said. I really don't. But he came and talked to my class about, you know, what it was like to be on the city council. And that's really cool, is to be able to have that connection and engagement. Like I know that because Jeff Elty came and talked to my class, that's one of the reasons that I'm a member of the league today. The other is mentor support and lift up. A lot of times we, you know, think that we should be in, you know, a position of leadership, or we should be in, you know, leading the charge. And that's not always the case, whether that's in the league or external. There are some things that we are absolutely 1000% the expert on. Democracy is absolutely our lane as an organization. While we have a lot of expertise in things like climate change, in things like children's services and health and things like that, it's not necessarily our center of expertise. So it's one of those where, do we need to be the people who are leading the charge, or is this where we bring our grassroots competency and capability and lift up the other organizations who are the experts in this and help them get their work done? This is something that was done recently. Seattle King County was able to support another organization with a letter to the city council about the caste discrimination legislation that was recently passed there. That's that kind of thing. Again, we shouldn't have been the ones leading the charge, and we certainly weren't, but to add our voices is an important way of helping people get in touch and get connected with the league in ways that make them feel supported and want to engage. All right, and I'm going to stop sharing because that's the end of my slides. And I am happy to answer questions or anything else.
Great. So real quick, Liz, Carol and I have been chatting because we see that we have remaining meeting time listed at the top of our screens, and we weren't really sure why it's doing this. So, Carolyn, do you think we can all just come back in, or?
Yes, Helen's not here. I'm wondering if we can maybe use up the time here, and then if we want to have more questions, everybody log off and log back in using the same link. So we would get another 40 minutes. I mean, I don't understand why we're on free Zoom right now. So
yeah, that usually works.
Okay.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
So
perfect.
when we
Okay.
get cut off, if everybody wants to come back on again, let's do that.
So,
Same
so
link.
Liz,
Okay.
Liz, I have a question for you. This is
Yeah.
Trisha. So, I'm pretty new to the league, compared to our 50-year members, which is fabulous. And so what I've learned in these few months is that we need to, if there's an issue within our community, we need to speak as individuals. Like, let's say we're going to write a letter to the editor, or we're going to speak in a public forum, that we should be careful about not, implying that we're representing the league. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So, even as a board member, I don't speak for the league unless I'm explicitly authorized to do so. And so there is a big difference in terms of when I post something on my personal Instagram, for example, about how democracy is really important, I am speaking with my own voice. I never say as a LWVWA board member, I never say as a league member, I just say democracy is really important. And I leave it at that, or democracy is really important to me. Because I'm on the board, I am also very conscious about not posting partisan things or not saying partisan things. As a member, you can say, I, Trisha, believe X, Y, and Z and support X party. You can say all of that as your own individual person. There's never a restriction on you as an individual person when you're, not in a leadership role necessarily. But really making sure that you make that distinction, that if you are speaking on behalf of the league, you start out saying, I am speaking today on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Pullman, versus I am speaking today to you, City Council, County Council, as Trisha Grantham. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, my name is Libby Walker. I'm a longtime resident of Pullman, longtime member of the league. We're having some issues around succession planning. Big issues. We have two co-leaders. Trish is one of them. Nobody else has stepped up that I know of to say that they would take on the lead role. One person has handled our new membership program as well as our Observer Corps program. One person, and she's moving out of state. I mean, these are big holes. In the last meeting that we had when we were all together, nobody said, well, I'll do that. I mean, just silence. Do you have any recommendations or advice for us?
Two things is you don't have to change your league membership if you move. You can always be a member of any league anywhere. So there's that. It's not always practical, but at the same time,
we're going to get cut off pretty soon.
Okay.
So I want to hear all that answer.
Yes.
So, I think it's going to be a good one, and it's so let's leave this meeting. I'll stop recording here, and then everybody log on again. Okay, is that okay?
Yes.
Sounds good.